In the meantime, can we talk yet again about state local leaders of the opposition who would love to find yet another excuse to fight with the federal government? The latest one from Queensland is extraordinary. They are basically saying they will not reopen their borders unless they get billions of dollars in extra funding for their hospitals. She actually said that.
So the hospitals need to have the capacity, and that requires on additional funding coming from the federal government to support the growth in the numbers that we will see. This will be unprecedented, so we need to be prepared. There needs to be a lot of work that needs to happen, and we've got to get this right. There is no use rushing. We need to make sure we get the people vaccinated and the hospitals prepared. And until you do both of those, it would be irresponsible to put the whole country at risk. And I'm not going to put Queenslanders at risk.
Irresponsible while she's holding a super spreader event right now in the centre of Brisbane. I'm glad that they didn't lock down, but come on. And then there is the Victorian Treasurer who, well, he's just smearing right now.
If we're talking about looking after industries that need it, when they need it, this is a time that the federal government should have stood up and be counted for the construction industry. The public purse is consistently directing a disproportionately high level of funds to New South Wales over Victoria.
Really, Dave? Does anyone actually buy that? Particularly, I don't know what you'd want to say, whether it's blackmail or anything else, but we won't open the borders unless the federal government give us money for the hospitals, despite the fact that they already get money from the federal government for the hospitals and they are in charge of running the hospitals.
Absolutely, Paul. I mean, hospitals, the management and operation of hospitals is entirely a state responsibility. And I think what we've seen again with this is just a continual shifting of the goalposts, right? There was the National Cabinet Plan. All premiers and chief ministers signed up and agreed to that once certain vaccination targets were met, states would reopen their borders and reopen to international travel. And Queensland decided that those targets no longer apply to them. Western Australia the same, and they're refusing to set new targets. They're saying, well, we'll let you know when we think it feels about right now. Another condition has been added. The hospitals need to be prepared, notwithstanding the fact that we've had 2 years of preparing our hospital system for an outbreak of COVID, an outbreak much bigger than any state or territory has experienced or the country throughout this. Look, I expect that Queenslanders are just growing frustrated by this, by these continual distractions, by always pointing the finger of blame at another level of government or another jurisdiction, and refusing to give Queenslanders any certainty about when they're going to get to see their friends and family again, when tourists are going to be allowed to come back in, when they can trade and interact normally with the rest of the Commonwealth. I'm very glad I'm in New South Wales, I must say.
Yeah, look, I love Queensland. As I said, every time if I can have the blood transfusions, I become a Queenslander. But this stuff is garbage. Everyone can see it for what it is. But it rolls on, and that'll be the play every day between now and the next federal election. But don't forget, the state with the highest support right now for the federal government is Queensland, and the biggest gap with preferred Prime Minister is Scott Morrison. So it's not really working.